Maybe you've just discovered Bitcoin, or you might have been in it for years. Either way, you know it's a total game changer. You've been orange pilled, you've gone down the rabbit hole and out the other side, and now you can't unsee it. Naturally, you think everyone else should be able to see it too. But the reality is that there are only about 12.4 million Bitcoin wallets that hold 0.01 Bitcoin or more, assuming that every wallet represents one person, which it doesn't because one person can hold more than one wallet. That's less than 0.15% of the world's population with any meaningful amount of Bitcoin, or less than 1 in 650 people. Chances are your friends and family are not amongst them. You're excited to share this life-changing discovery with the people around you, but then you hit a wall. Most people respond somewhere between hesitant, suspicious, and outright hostile. But why wouldn't they want to own the scarcest asset on earth? It's completely baffling to you. The truth is, some common behaviors that I see happening in the Bitcoin space don't just fail to convince people, they actively push them away. So in this video, I'm sharing 7 guaranteed ways to make sure someone never wants to touch Bitcoin and what you can do instead. Number 1, laugh at people who messed up and lost Bitcoin. It's an unfortunate truth that Bitcoin and the crypto industry in general tends to be a target for scammers. Bitcoin can be difficult to use for beginners and the non-tech savvy and offers a myriad of ways for novices to potentially lose their money. Plenty of people have been caught out, whether it was sending coins to an incorrect or scam address, having their hot wallet hacked, losing coins that were held with a custodian, or losing their seed phrase. And this is not just limited to beginners. I recently saw an interview with a couple who had accidentally downloaded a fake Sparrow Wallet scam app from the Apple Store and lost a substantial amount of Bitcoin. Also, I know that a number of crypto veterans were burned in the Celsius and FTX collapses. While some of us will feel empathy towards people who make such mistakes, there is a vocal segment who will actively mock those who inadvertently make an error. So if it wasn't bad enough that someone has potentially lost their life savings, they might also hear things like,
"Guess you didn't do your own research, huh? If you don't know how to self-custody properly, then you deserve everything you get. And not your keys, not your coins."
Newcomers who hear these kinds of things will see a community that punishes mistakes instead of helping people understand how to prevent them in the first place. Instead of mockery and shame, let these be lessons that we can learn from. If someone is willing to share a mistake that they've made, try to understand where they went wrong and how you can help prevent others, whether it's your friends or family, from making similar errors. Educate them on the potential downfalls of Bitcoin security and some simple steps that they can take to secure their Bitcoin and transact safely with it. Number 2, use loads of technical jargon or spout esoteric nonsense. If you want to make sure someone never buys Bitcoin, don't just speak in plain English. Use as much technical jargon as possible. Bonus points if you throw in words or acronyms that they've never heard before, and make sure you don't explain them. Make sure they know exactly how advanced you are. For example, someone might ask, "So what's Bitcoin exactly?" And instead of saying, "It's money that can't be printed or controlled," you launch into,
"Well, it's a decentralized, permissionless, peer-to-peer network that uses a proof-of-work consensus mechanism to timestamp transactions in immutable blocks that are chained together with SHA-256 cryptography. And of course, you'll want to watch out for RBF on unconfirmed TXs."
Congratulations! They've already stopped listening and are now wondering what kind of cult they've stumbled into. But maybe jargon isn't your style. No problem, you can also try pseudo-intellectual nonsense. And by this, I mean the lofty, mystical phrases that might make sense once you're deep in Bitcoin, but to a newcomer, sound like a poem written by ChatGPT on a strong dose of hallucinogenics. They ask, "Why should I care about Bitcoin?" And you say, "Because Bitcoin isn't money, it's time, it's tokenized energy. It's the thermodynamic heartbeat of civilization and the purest expression of truth humanity has ever known. Or how about this gem? Bitcoin is a swarm of cyber hornets serving the goddess of wisdom, feeding on the fire of truth, exponentially growing ever smarter, faster, and stronger behind a wall of encrypted energy. And yes, that is a real Bitcoin quote, by the way, from the one and only Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy. Now your unlucky orange pill victim is going to walk away thinking this is less about money and more about some new avant-garde art movement. Try starting super simple instead. If someone doesn't even know what fiat money or inflation is yet, there is no sense in getting all technical or philosophical on them. Instead, say something like, it's digital money you can own yourself. There is no bank, no middleman, and no one can create more of it. Gauge their existing level of understanding and meet them where they are. You might even need to just begin at debt and money printing. Once they get the basics, then you can try bringing out the poetry and the cryptography. Just briefly, if you're enjoying my video and want to see more content like it, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and say hi in the comments. This is the best way to support my channel and its educational mission right now, and I truly appreciate every new subscriber. Number 3, make it a boys-only club. Okay, this is a fun one. Chances are that if you are a guy, you probably don't notice how many well-known Bitcoin proponents tend to frame and present their material to make it sound like a boys' club. I don't think it's deliberate, and Bitcoin is a tech that extended from the cypherpunk movement, which is obviously very male-dominated, so it's understandable. Just in my experience, things I've witnessed myself on a regular basis include comments like,
You need big balls to hodl Bitcoin. Men make all the financial decisions. Be careful about letting your dog, your kid, or your wife near your Bitcoin node. And you women get everything else, leave something for the guys.
Now, just to be clear, I think these things are so ridiculous that they're laughable. And they're not offensive to me. However, I try to put myself in the shoes of many women hearing these kinds of things, and especially those in my age group and older. It just doesn't resonate, and it's all rather off-putting, to be quite frank. So what's the problem with that, you ask? Well, I wouldn't say it's a problem as much as it presents a huge missed opportunity, which, by the way, is one of the reasons I started this channel. Anyway, the way I see it, while there are no good stats on the breakdown of male and female Bitcoin holders, best estimates put it at around 30% female. Anecdotally, in my age group, I have only 1 or 2 female peers who own Bitcoin, and the analytics of my channel indicate I have a 13% female viewership, which I believe is quite typical for a channel in the crypto space. Let's assume around 30% of Bitcoin holders are women, and personally I think that's on the high side. If that number were to rise to 50% to match the makeup of the general population, and the number of male holders stayed the same, which is unlikely, but let's just keep it constant for this calculation, the total number of Bitcoin holders would grow by about 40%. That is a huge increase. A bigger network makes Bitcoin more valuable and more secure, which benefits all holders. So Bitcoin benefits from women just as much as women benefit from Bitcoin. Whether you are a female or male watching this, hopefully you feel comfortable enough to have a conversation about your experiences with Bitcoin with your female friends, family members, or peers. If the topic was to arise, many people start their Bitcoin journey being influenced by someone close to them, and women are even more reliant on personal relationships when it comes to making any financial decisions. Consider directing them to resources that aren't so tech and jargon heavy, that don't involve shouty moon boys, and that appeal to the aspects of financial security that many women seek. Number 4, treat it like a test of loyalty to a cult. Okay, so now I'm talking about the toxic Bitcoin maxi. You know, the ones that sell everything they own, even their chairs, so they can sit inside their empty rented apartment and laugh at people whose entire lives don't revolve around Bitcoin. You must only own Bitcoin. You must not hold dirty fiat. You earn Bitcoin and you spend Bitcoin. You listen to podcasts made by other Bitcoin maxis and comment how everyone else is an NPC. And God forbid you should own property, stocks, gold, or anything else really, because that clearly puts you in the brainwashed fool category. Personally, I don't go for the all or nothing approach. First of all, a vast majority of adults have jobs, mortgages and bills to pay, children or aging parents to take care of, hobbies, travels, and many other things that occupy their time on a daily basis. Bitcoin has to slot in amongst the myriad of other things that we have to be concerned about. For 99% of people, it's not going to ever occupy their every waking moment. And that doesn't make them an idiot. Once you understand why Bitcoin is important, the rest can be approached in stages. Learn how to buy it, then learn how to safely custody it yourself. Do it in small segments of time over weeks, months, or even years if you need to. It does not require that you sell everything that you own and dedicate your entire life to going all in. People can use it alongside their other assets or investments if they so choose. Maybe you don't believe they should, but people have every right to choose their own path and their own level of investment into Bitcoin, if any. And we must respect that even if we disagree. They might eventually become Bitcoin maxis as well, but it's unlikely to happen overnight, and it certainly won't happen if they are belittled. Number 5, start with the apocalypse. If you start trying to orange pill people with dire warnings of a dark future that makes Orwell's 1984 look like a fairy tale, you are unlikely to be able to hold their attention and conduct a productive conversation with them. In fact, you may just end up looking like a tinfoil hat wearing fruitcake. As much as you may be concerned about the future of central bank digital currencies, government tyranny, or an economic reset, most people have more immediate day-to-day concerns. Opening your first conversation about Bitcoin with the collapse of civilization as we know it probably won't win you any fans. Most people, myself included, don't enjoy lamenting a coming apocalypse. Instead, start with the immediate, more tangible benefits. If that means number go up, then by all means. What you'll find is that most people who start learning about Bitcoin will arrive at the other stuff eventually. You can point them in the direction of Jeff Booth's The Price of Tomorrow, or Saifedean Ammus's The Bitcoin Standard, or interviews and podcasts with them for the non-readers out there. And I think for anyone who gets to that point, they're unlikely to be able to view money as they once did. Number 6, scare them about self-custody on day one. I've noticed that some Bitcoiners expect that a newbie needs to jump in immediately to the highest level of self-custody the moment they buy a small amount of Bitcoin. For example, if you don't get a cold card today and memorize your 24-word seed phrase and carve it into a piece of metal and store it in a fireproof bag buried under the ground, locatable with a map that can only be read by the light of the blue moon, you'll lose everything. Don't get me wrong, proper self-custody is the ultimate goal. But if your cousin Joe has just learned how to DCA into Bitcoin with small buys on Coinbase, he doesn't need to get immediately overwhelmed with the complexities of top-notch Bitcoin security. He first needs to understand why self-custody is important. And that can take newbies quite a while to figure out. Once he understands, let him choose a wallet that he is comfortable with as a beginner, even if it's not the perfect choice. Maybe he will use that wallet to start with, get comfortable with the idea of self-custody, and then further down the line, when he has more wealth to protect, then he can look at getting a more sophisticated setup with better security. This is honestly the path that a majority of people will take. To even understand why self-custody is important and how to get started with it is a big step for most. Don't go making it sound overwhelming and terrifying right from day one. And last but not least, number 7, tell them, don't measure Bitcoin in dollars. Someone new to Bitcoin asks, how much do you think Bitcoin will be worth in 5 years? And you smugly reply, it doesn't matter because we don't measure Bitcoin in fiat currency. Cue complete confusion for the newbie. I think part of the reason that some people are adamant about this is because they are certain that they will never sell their Bitcoin for dollars. So that's understandable. Why would you measure it in dollars if it's not something you ever plan to exchange for dollars? However, most beginners don't go into Bitcoin with the idea of buying and never selling it. So this makes them feel silly for using the only frame of reference that they understand, the same yardstick that we use to measure the value of all other assets. In fact, the opposite could be true. It is useful to apply the dollar value to Bitcoin because it allows us to see just how fast it is increasing. Therefore, we can help beginners understand why it's so important to hold some Bitcoin, because they can see dollar debasement in real time. As human beings, we want to categorize new and novel things immediately so that we can have a familiar frame of reference. Bitcoin is usually classified as an investment or an asset, and all other items in these categories are normally valued in dollars. Now, Bitcoiners might argue that Bitcoin is not like those other assets, and it is in fact in a category of its own. And I wouldn't disagree with that. However, getting someone who is new to Bitcoin to understand this will take time, and it will probably only happen gradually. In the meantime, it's not helpful to insist that they should never measure Bitcoin in dollars. It will only add to the confusion. Things like sats and purchasing power can come later. At the end of the day, orange pilling someone isn't about winning an argument, flexing your technical knowledge, or proving how hardcore you are as a Bitcoiner. If you actually want people to understand and adopt Bitcoin, you have to meet them where they are. Start with their concerns, speak in plain language, and build trust. For example, if they complain about the cost of living, explain that the government's endless money printing is causing inflation of fiat currencies and that you hedge against this with Bitcoin, and leave it there. You can't force someone down the rabbit hole. You can only leave the door open and make it inviting. If they choose not to explore it, accept that without being smug, belittling, or resentful of their choice. After all, Bitcoin is about freedom, and that includes the freedom to choose not to own it. Bitcoin doesn't need gatekeepers, it needs guides. The more approachable, inclusive, and relatable that we make the space, the more people will feel confident in taking their first step, and then we all benefit. So yes, you can follow all the bad advice in this video if your goal is to keep Bitcoin niche and misunderstood. But if you want to see it grow into a truly global, widely held, and unstoppable form of money, maybe do the opposite. Because the best way to orange pill someone isn't to prove that you're right, it's to help them see how Bitcoin could be beneficial to them. So if you've made it this far, let me know in the comments if you've ever encountered any of this off-putting behavior in the Bitcoin space. Like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.